The first table that I have presented in front of you is information that I took from the DuPage County website. And that first page here lists out the basically what our extension is and what the EAV value is for the village. So if you look at right here where it says 2024 EAV at $815,739,877, that is what the county certified our EAV level to be. What is above there with the word estimate next to it at 817 million is where you see this little arrow here drawing because I moved that number up here, but it's based on this 2% increase in estimated new growth. We don't know what that new growth would be. You can look at the history of Villa Park and look at where it's been over the years. Quite honestly, since COVID has hit, it's kind of been difficult to be able to gauge where we've been within any municipality. This last year it was just shy of $2 million, so that's why I used the $2 million just for this example. But again, it's just to give you an idea. There's nothing certified with that number on here. So taking that 817 million, assuming that we're going to get a $2 million increase in value with estimated growth, we do the limiting rate calculator, and the limiting rate calculator means the cap is as high as the village can go for our actual rate. So in here, this 8,982,928, I have these colors here because I'm going to scroll just for a quick minute to kind of help you see where I got these numbers from. It's this very next page that's here, and let me just turn it sideways for you here so that you can see it correctly. It shows you, this is the certified number from the county. So this 2024 billing valuation that's 815 million came from this final sheet.
You can pause. We're being told there's no sound on the microphone.
There's a green light.
On YouTube, we're getting no sound.
On YouTube, they're saying there's no sound.
Can you hear the sound?
You can hear it now?
Do you have a microphone that we can bring up on you?
I'm hearing it fine now. There was no sound.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Thank you.
This is the sheet that comes from the county, and every municipality gets this. So this is where I got my information from. So as you'll see here, all of these individual line items for the general fund that list IMRF, fire protection, etc., is where I pull these numbers from. So up here where it says the billing valuation that's circled in green is where, if I scroll back to this page to show you, that's where I got the 815 million, and that's where it gets pulled up over here. And this 8,982,000 then comes from the sheet down here, which is your grand total number of what the EAV, the extension rate was at the end of 2024. So I wanted to show and prove where these numbers come from. So they came directly from the county, and then that's how I transferred them over into this table that I created for this presentation so that you could see where my numbers come in. The 1.029 is 2.9% is where the CPI was. So in December of 2024, 2024 is where the U.S. Census Bureau comes in and tells you what your CPI is for the year. And that's where that 2.9 comes in. That means that the most that the village can levy for taxes is 2.9%. So that's where that number comes in. And so this formula that gets put in here takes your estimated rate based on your valuation, based on new growth, incorporating the 2.9% maximum that you can go for CPI, gives you your limiting rate over here at 1.1331. Again, that's the maximum you can go. If I scroll down here so that you can see these individual line items, which are your individual line items that you see on your tax bill, this is what, in this column here, which was extended in 2025, which is what the county certified. And then this is the rate that they extended, which is down here. And then in here is where I incorporated that 2.9% increase. Now you will see that there's a column here that I did the mathematical computation that will show the increase in dollar as well as the percentage change. As a whole, you will see that every line item went up 2.9%, with the exception of the general fund or corporate fund, the police pension fund, and then the fire pension fund. one of the things that I want to notice on here is that you're going to see 0%, which is right here for the police pension fund, is because we are putting into the pension fund actuary report, they asked for 2 million, I believe it was 381, but we bumped it to 2,580,000. And the reason why we did that is because that's the same dollar amount that they requested, or that was given to them by what the computations the former finance director did that brought to you guys to the board and that you levied for last year's taxes. So you would never want to, from a tax levy perspective for the pension funds, ask for less than what you did the previous year, and that's why we left it even keel. And then for the fire pension fund, their increase there is at 5.5 or 5.61% based on the actuarial report of 1.3 million, 1,337,000. So that's why you'll see based on those numbers why it either increases or decreases some of the other funds. When you add them all together coming down here, it gives you your new total for the proposed levy based on the 2.9%, and it shows you your new rate here, which is the 0.6359. I've included the library levy as well, and those numbers here where you see the that light blue color and that light yellow color, I'm going to scroll here because this is the final sheet that's sideways, that's for the village. But then if I scroll back over here, you can see that I pulled that same report that comes for the county from the library. So those numbers correlate to those colors so that it's easy for you to be able to trace it and find it as to why I got those numbers and how I got those numbers put in as a whole for this exercise. So circling back to this, and I apologize that I keep going in circles here, but the overall total at the very, very bottom here shows the total dollar amounts for the general fund. It's was 7,741,000, and now with the 2.9% proposal, it's 7,963,000, which it comes out to be 2.87%, which is 2.9. Again, the county, when you pass the ordinance and file it with the county, they certify based on new growth, and they'll ensure that you get that maximum amount. It's just a matter of what the new growth comes out to be, as long as you're filing with them that your intention is to go to the cap. This is to show you as an exercise of what you potentially can gain or what you have left to spend within your general fund within these specific categories for what it's earmarked for. The bottom part of it pulls out the debt service part. And the debt service part is because those are the amounts that went out to general obligation bonds. So these are separate items on the tax levy for the property taxes for the owners, and it shows the total dollar amount. And this is based on the schedule when the bonds were purchased and sold. And so that schedule just gets put on here. So for the village, the amount was 3.9 million. So that put the rate at 0.4817. The next bond payment that's due for next year is $4,132,000, which is $203,000 additional to what was in 2025. So that's a 5.17% increase. Again, that's based on that general obligation that was passed whenever that those bonds were sold over the course of the years. And then on the library bond, that payment actually went down. So the amount for 2025 was $843,000, and then it's actually going down for 2026. So there's a decrease of $8,600. So it's a negative 1.02% as an aggregate for this. So if you take an average of the two, it comes to 3.31%. What I did is to show you this exercise is I went ahead, so you have the backup here that shows you the reports from the county where those numbers come from. I went and did a sample, and I attached a sample tax bill of a resident's information on here. And as you see these colors that are on the right-hand side here, these colors will match up to this next exercise that I pulled together to be able to show residents and to you, the board, of what that 2.9% increase will do to an average homeowner for next year. And so that effect on the taxes for that, if you look at the tax rate based on that excess value, so this $81,073 is taken right from their tax bill here of what their assessed value is. So $81,073. Your state multiplier is always 1%, so that you multiply those out, it's $81,073, and that's the current tax rate for right now for 2025, this year that the residents pay their taxes on. Every homeowner has an $8,000 tax exemption that they're able to deduct, so that brings their equalized assessed value to $73,073 in this example. You always divide that by 100 to be able to come out with a dollar amount to figure out what you're multiplying against figure out the portion that comes to the village for your property taxes. So when you divide that dollar amount by 100, you get $730.73, and that new tax rate at 6.6195, or I'm sorry, that tax rate was the 2024 tax rate that we collected in 2025. That means the village bill was approximately $452.69. So that $452.69 is how much on the resident's tax bill was paid for the year to the village to get the services that they're receiving across the board. The example of adding the 2.9% increase is now the equalized assessed rate is going to be $83,424. Again, multiplying it by the state equalizer of 1 is the same. Taking out the homeowner's exemption brings it up to $75,424. Divide that by 100, you get your new amount of $754.24. The new village rate is 0.6359, and that again comes off that first spreadsheet that I presented as the first table there with that 2.9% increase. And that means the property tax bill now goes up to $479.62. So with this, in this specific residence tax bill, that increase with the 2.9% is going to be $26.93. What I did is I included the library tax rate in here because the library is part of the village. And so because the library is part of the village and they have to file their tax levy with the village, I included that portion of it just for this exercise. So their rate is 0.3295. So if you take that 730.73, multiply it by the 0.3295, it was $240.78. And then they take the same effect as we do as a 2.9% increase, so their rate now becomes 0.3379. So their increases becomes $254.86. So that's an additional $14.08 on next year's tax bill for the library portion alone. What I did is I then added these two dollar amounts together. That shows the difference in the total tax rate. The increase with that 2.9% is $41.02. Again, that's based on this specific property. If anybody looks at their property tax bill and plugs in their dollar amount of assessed value, they can figure out these rates too to see how that effect would equal on their tax bill. So I wanted to give this an example of based on the tax levy rate based on CPI, on what the form to be filed with the county would look like and what that impact would be on everybody's tax bill. I know I probably spoke kind of quickly. I tried to toggle between the screens to kind of give an example and to show where I got these numbers from and what I was presenting. Are there any questions that I can try to clarify or help?
Trustee Kumar?
Just can you toggle up on just this sheet a little bit, because
This specific one?
yeah, this one, just this, the calculation. I think that's most interesting to the residents, a little bit more. Before the assessed value, I think you have the actual tax bill.
Yeah, so the actual tax bill here.
So it just, to clarify, the cash value is probably closer to what we're thinking of rather than the assessed value as we look at things. So the cash value is kind of close to the property value you have, and that's something that a lot of people kind of miss. So that would be your property. So if your property is about 250,000, I think on average, then that would be your increase. It was maybe 500, it would be more. If it's less, it's less, and that's something to look into. But I'm very, very happy that you went through this process, because that's the average property in Villa Park, and it's less than $50 in a year, which is, quite frankly, less than a cup of coffee, less than pretty much everything we do. So it's not a lot of money.
Any other questions?
No,
Okay, seeing none.
they're summed up and easy.
Well, thank you, Director Micah. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak under public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Trustee Costados, do I have a second? Trustee Kumar? Any discussion?
Just, if we get questions, we'll filter them over to you, so you can move them to Director Micah.
Oh, you could email her directly.
Just go direct, right?
Yeah.
I'll grab a couple.
Okay.
But that was perfect, that was great.
Okay, all in favor, voice vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, okay, we are adjourned from Committee of the Whole at 6:21 PM. At 7 PM, we will start our regular stated meeting.
Just forward
Thank
them
you.
over there and then we don't get to know.